So tell me about engineering. Tell me about how you came to be.
I'm gonna scratch my nose. I don't know if we can do that, but I'm.
Yeah.
Anyways,
Scratching's okay.
Scratching's okay. How I came to be in engineering, it was it just kind of happened, so to speak. When I was in high school and in middle school, enjoyed math, enjoyed sciences. At that point in time, the guidance counselors at the school weren't a whole lot of help, other than say that, you know what, engineering might be a good curriculum for you to go into in school. I didn't have much exposure to it, other than the fact that I did a little bit of research on it before I went to college. But once I got into it, I really enjoyed it. I had some summer jobs that were putting me into kind of an internship, where I got to learn the ins and outs of how departments worked, how they functioned within a factory environment, and I really really enjoyed that work.
Did something resonate on the inside when?
Absolutely, it was a problem-solving type of responsibility, and I really liked that part of it, where you went in, there was something that you needed to be looked at, you got to apply some logical sense to it, if you will, and came up with a solution.
And that's the path that you followed now for how many years?
If you do the math, it's probably about 26 years now.
26 years.
Yeah.
So really that puts you in kind of a master category, right, when you look at that?
In some way, yeah.
Yeah? Do you see yourself that way in terms of?
It's changing how I see myself. You know, as we talked when we first started our journey here, I started out in my career as very much an individual contributor.
Yeah.
And how I went through that path changed in the last probably 8 years. I started to have to take notice on the fact that I was really needing other people to help me become successful. So I was a leader, solving problems, driving things from a very much a one-on-one perspective, and as roles changed on me, I needed to look outside myself to become successful.
That's really terrific. Do you think engineers are misunderstood?
Absolutely. I think we're a group of people that there's a stigma about us that we're not, don't have a personality. We're pretty much cut and dry in how we go about doing things. And I think once you start getting in and working with the team and start seeing how things happen, they're just as creative as many other people are.
You know, when you know, I think about customers, right? There's internal customers and external customers, right? And you and I have discussed, you know, that concept of internal and external customers. What do you think your external customers expect from you?
From me as an engineer, or me as a company?
Yeah.
As an engineering, they expect confidence, they expect understanding of being able to understand their problems and help solve their problems. They're expecting me to come with the experience that we've gained over the years of our company and being able to apply that to what their issues are.
And how does engineering, your, you know, division, how do you deliver that to them?
Right now, I think that's a challenge where we're growing as a company. Waukesha, over the last probably 5 years, has grown exponentially. We've hired a lot of new people. How we delivered that in the past was very much engineer to engineer conversations, where you had a person like myself or another individual, Barry Blair, or others in the organization that went out, sat with the engineers face to face and talked about the problems. We had the ability, we were fortunate, I guess, to say that we learned from some very, very experienced people that put us into the place that we had a lot of knowledge and expertise behind us. How that's happening today is a little bit different. You know, we've grown so fast and we've hired so many young people that they don't have the benefit now of having all of that experience and knowledge that I was able to garner from other people over the years in their heads right now. So we're kind of taking, I almost feel like we took a little bit of half a step backwards, but we're rounding the corner and getting more people on staff where we can really put that momentum forward.
So you're feeling some momentum?
I'm feeling some momentum. You know, it's kind of a thing of scale, if you will, where you start building up. We went backwards in the fact that we had younger people, but those younger people are starting to make headway now. They're starting to get the confidence, starting to get the ability to sit in front of the customers and really carry on a deep conversation.
Is there a part of engineering, a story of engineering that your customers miss?
Absolutely.
What's that?
We do a lot of things in engineering where we solve many, many problems for many different types of people in sometimes related fields and sometimes unrelated fields. The issue that we have within Waukesha engineering right now is that we just move on to something else. We don't take the time to document well that solution, share it across the organization, and then communicate it to our customers. It's almost like celebrating that success. We don't do a lot of that. We just kind of say, okay, that's our job, and we moved on. We're recognizing that that's a key problem right now within the organization, that we need to find a way to start taking those knowledge bits that we learn and then sharing them back amongst the rest of the organization.
So how would that benefit your customer?
It would help them understand more of our true capabilities, what we bring to the table. It would make us look more knowledgeable, more of an expert in their eyes, that we solved this problem, this problem, this problem. These were the unique opportunities or challenges that we had in front of us, and this is the problem solving that we went through, so that we have the confidence now of looking at your problem, how to go forward with that one as well.
Do you want, when I chat with you, I feel your passion for engineering, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's, people have different ways of expressing passion, but I get it from you, right? Do your customers need to feel passion from engineering?
I think yes, they do. I think when we present things in a very factual format, some people can relate to that and other people can't. What you need to do is kind of get the as you're calling passion, or the emotional investment into what we're doing tied in, so they can really see that we weren't just going through the motion solving this stuff. We're deeply committed to helping them solve a problem.
Do they get that now?
Some do and some don't. It depends on what level of customer they are. Right now we focus harder on certain customers than others.
Sure.
So some customers get what you'd call the high level treatment, other customers get the run of the mill stuff right now. But that's a fact of getting people trained up better, getting people better able to communicate that, what we would call the value proposition when we're in front of the customer.
Does that affect the engineering department and division, though, when people are getting different?
It does. Because of the caliber of information that you get back, sometimes you don't get as much of a response as you'd like to have in the quality of information, so that it makes it harder to do your job.
So if I was to say to you, what's the emotional experience of dealing with your company?
I'm going to tell you that it varies because of the customer, what customer sees that. I'll give you an example. Solar Turbines is one of our top customers in the U.S. We're tied tightly with them from all the way down to the shop floor level, where we have quality people going out and meeting with their quality people. So the emotional experience that they feel from us is very much a partnership. And we can take it to the further extreme when we get to a customer in China that sends in an email that has a litany of information on an email. There's really no connection, personal connection, and they get a response back from us. So it's pretty cold. We run that full gamut of response right now, simply because you just can't put enough people in place to give that grade A service to everybody.
Right.
You have to kind of pick and choose the opportunities and which ones you're going to take on.
Right. Is there an emotional experience you'd like your customers to have from engineering?
Yeah, we'd like them to come away with the fact that they would say, yeah, those guys know what they're talking about. They understand our problems, and we want to work with them.
All right, so you want your customer to feel like you guys have empathy for them, right? That
Yeah.
you can put yourself in their shoes. And there's something about a drive for customer satisfaction, right?
Absolutely.
How would you, if you, had a magic formula, right? If we were talking about the engineering of excellence, right? You're an engineer, right?
Yeah,
How would you engineer the excellence with the experience of your customer and
I'm not
in
sure
your
if I follow how I engineer the.
yeah, that experience of excellence between your customer
Mm-hmm.
and engineering. How would you engineer that?
The sad part to say is that we'd break it down bit by bit by bit and look at how we needed to respond to that. I think that's the engineering way to do that. I think we need to step away from being an engineer to engineer that. I think we need to get back and really look at what we want them to walk away with at the end.
Which is?
What feeling, what confidence, what understanding we have, how much they want to do business with us by the message that we send back to them.
So you want them to have an emotional experience.
Yeah.
And I feel that as you talk about it. How do you convey the message, though?
What we've done, and I'll give another example of a customer that we're working with, General Electric.
Yeah.
We have a large project going on with them right now, where it's a customer that we had some issues with several years back. So we kind of walk a a fine line with that company, looking at how we want to pick and choose and do business with them. What they've come to realize over the last 2 years is that we've gone in and made several technical presentations to show the value that we're bringing to their competition, to all the other major gas turbine manufacturers in the world that we're doing business with, but yet we don't do much business with them, showing them the technology that we're bringing and the problems we're solving with them, showing them that we're vested in bettering that bit of communication, or that bit of machinery, kind of making it, why wouldn't you want to do business with us type of a thing, but really showing the confidence that we have in what we're capable of doing.
That confidence is important, right?
It is, because when you walk in there, you want to make, these people don't know you from anybody else. So you want to walk in and be able to instill an understanding of what we're doing, that we're capable, that we understand the problems, we've solved many of these things before, but also that we're here to help, looking at what your solutions are as well. We're not going in there to give you the cheapest solution, but we're going in there to give you the most value for what money you're going to be paying for the solution, for your overall piece of machinery.
Do you feel that message is getting delivered on a consistent basis?
Now,
What it would be required to get that message delivered?
this is something that we've been looking at with it's very much an individualistic approach by the engineers that are in the team. Certain engineers are very much more capable at doing that. They're more experienced. They have a more convincing way in front of the customer. We'd say they have presence in front of the customer, where they can command that type of an audience and get somebody and be able to influence them to the products that you're looking to sell to. The inexperienced people are challenged with that right now. They can't sit there and confidently say, we've done this, this, and this, because they have a doubt in their mind. They haven't been trained, they haven't seen the work that others have seen to be able to convey that message.
Talk to me about your vision. Is your vision being carried out now the way you see it?
It's starting to. The vision in engineering, as we've grown with Waukesha, we were very much one engineering team to one manufacturing facility. We're now taking the engineering stance that engineering is a global function. Very much need to be that way to satisfy the customer's needs, because the customers are now global in and of themselves. By doing that, the vision that I'm setting forth is going through a one team where everybody in the engineering, be it if you're in the US or in the UK or India or wherever the next site's going to be, you're part of engineering. You're not a UK engineer, you're not a US engineer, you're not a Providence engineer. You're part of Waukesha Bearings Engineering. And in order to drive that, there's a lot of background work that has to happen on procedures and processes and all the tactical stuff that gets us there. But from a strategic point of view, we need to move to that type of a level to be able to satisfy our customers' needs, to be able to satisfy customers' needs both internal and external. The external being that their customers are global, but now we're starting to put plants in China, potentially a plant in India, and all the outcome and the work that comes out of the engineering teams right now is not similar, but we need to become similar, actually identical, if you will, so that we can take a product and put it in any one of the factories and not have any issues with it. So that vision, you asked if are we moving down that path, we're getting there. We're getting the building blocks put in place. That's going to be a journey. It's not going to take a year or two to get that done. It's going to be a 5, 7, 10 years, but as long as we keep moving down that path and knocking these things off one by one by one by one, or 2 by 5 or whatever, we need to start clipping these off. That allows us to move to a much higher level in being able to satisfy the customer's needs.
So I'm a new engineer, and I fortunately get hired by you and your company, right? Mm-hmm. That first impression, the imprinting that occurs right away during this kind of, startup when an engineer first comes in, right? This onboarding process. Mm-hmm. What would you like me, as a new engineer joining your team, to capture early on in my experience with your company?
I would like that when we're going through the problem-solving process, to see that there's an excitement, there's a dedication to the people that are on that team. It's not a humdrum, cookie-cutter, formula-driven type process. There's some creativity that goes on in there that you have the ability to step in and be part of that process.
Anything else?
That's the primary thing, I guess.
How do you want people to feel?
Engaged,
on that team?
Excited. I'm not certain where you're going.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I really wanted to kind of learn from you what it is that you want people to get early on when they join this engineering team.
I want them to feel part of something. I want them to feel like they're adding value to a process, adding value to a customer problem, that they're wanted as part of the team, that they're an integral part of that team, that they're valuable in the process.
So is there a story behind the people, behind the results?
Sure. As people come in and come on board, everybody's a little bit different in how they come through, the experiences that they've had prior to walking into Waukesha Bearings. It's looking at trying to find out what their strengths are, what our needs are moving forward, and how we can pull those strengths forward out of them and meld that into the new team as we go forward.
Are you happy with the team?
We have some good places and some people that need a little bit of work on some things. The dynamic of the team and the requirements are changing. They were a little bit different 4 years ago, so the needs of the people that we have in the team are being stretched and pulled in ways that they haven't felt before. One of the challenges that I need to work on within the team is when we go through this problem-solving process, it's an iterative solution process when we're working with the customer. Some of the engineering staff that we have in place like to ask questions and not try to discover the solution, but ask questions back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, and then make an assumption and try to solve something. And if it turns out wrong, then they have to go back and repeat this process again. And what ends up happening is that process gets longer and longer. They're chewing up time. We need to develop better, almost interviewing skills with the customer so that we're really digging deeper and trying to discover what the right solution is instead of just shoot, try to solve no, shoot no, shoot no. Oh yeah, this one worked. We need to find a better way to look at that overall process and really dig in deeper to find out what the real problems are.
You know, I'm interested in something called spontaneous synchronization, right? Have you ever been camping?
Yeah.
And, you see these fireflies, right? And, like they're blinking different times, right? But at some point, even without a leader, something happens where they spontaneously synchronize and they start to blink together, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that is an important concept for teams and companies, right? Do you feel synchronization within the team?
As I said, we're getting closer to that. Are we fully synchronized right now? No. We have the UK people kind of going in one path, the US companies going in another. And what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to get over the top of that and really drive these people to a common goal. We're not synchronized. There's spurts and moving back and forth within one another. And that's just within engineering. We have similar issues within sales and within manufacturing, operations side, that we're really not all truly aligned to the right goal. To the
Is that
proper goal.
frustrating?
Yeah, absolutely.
In what way?
You feel that you're kind of going backwards at times. You're recreating things. You're just stagnating or running in place, if you will, and trying to find that solution.
What does that do to your energy level?
It saps it. You're just wasting time and wasting energy on things.
Is it harder to engage from that place?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Do you think you're the only one that feels this way at times?
No. I'm sure others feel this way too. Like I said, we're starting to see from a better perspective how to try and start getting these teams aligned. But again, that doesn't happen overnight. It takes true commitment and teamwork from people at my level in the organization all the way down. We've gone on this, what we call a lean journey within the company.
Sure.
And the lean journey
By
is,
the way, you look lean.
Yeah.
It's working pretty good.
So the journey, I'm not done yet. But anyway, in that lean journey, going through that, parts of the organization are further advanced than other parts. Lean is always easier to implement in an operational standpoint because you can change something quick and you can see the quick benefits of that.
Yeah, so I want to get back to the synchronization stuff,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because you can have memos that talk about it, right? You can have like a mission statement or a vision statement, right? I mean, but really what happens behind the scenes? And I think one of the ways to get this synchronization is a change in a mindset, right?
Yeah.
What would the shift be you think the required shift be to get that kind of synchronization from just a personal change in mindset?
You got to make what you're looking to make real to them. They have to understand what the vision is that you're going towards.
Do they?
Some do, some don't. Had this discussion just recently, in fact, with Jeff and others in another meeting, talking about when we set the high-level organizational goals, they're very high, and trying to trickle those down to the people that are doing the day in and day out work so that they really know how they're contributing to those is difficult. And I think right now there's a disconnect. We understand where we're going from a top level, but when a person comes in and is doing something for 8 hours a day, do they really understand? I'll give you a good case example is we have an initiative to reduce lead time by 30% in 12 months. 1230 initiative is one of the things that's a corporate goal. When you get somebody to walk in there and walk in and do their job, and they are trying to think, okay, how do I directly affect lead time? Do they feel that? Do they see that? Do they live that every day? No, because I think they come in the engineering world at least, they come in, they do the job how they've always done it, and they're thinking, well, if I saved 5 minutes, that's not big a deal. I'm not making a change to that. But what you got to get is that mindset to say, okay, if I save 5 minutes here and I learn from that 5 minutes so that the next time I do something similar, I save 5 minutes plus another 10 because I learned something on that, that's the benefits that you start seeing. It's trying to get that mindset down to the people that are doing that work.
So I'm hearing vision is a component, right?
Very much so.
Okay, what about this concept of creating receptivity centers for change, right?
Yeah.
How do you do that?
That's trying to get the buy-in, is what you're talking about, into these changes and getting people to really understand what the changes are that are happening. How do you create that receptivity center? That's tough because it's different with every person.
It is tough. You know what, I want to stay on this. Can we stay on this? It just made me think of something. So there was I was watching this, have you ever seen this, by the way? Let me see if I can find it for you. There's this spider was on a web, and a big torrential kind of downpour came, and this thing was holding on, and it was able to hold on, right? And I'm thinking, in creating receptivity centers, I'm wondering if there's a time where you need to let go and a time where you need to hold on.
Absolutely. on the time, that's trying to communicate with the individuals on now is the time to make a change. And this is why we need to make that change. You need to let go of the past. This is the way we're going forward. You have to build that trust.
And that's an easier argument. You know what the problem with that argument is? It's a cognitive argument.
Yeah.
What if I was to suggest to you that maybe some change, there's an emotional shift that occurs that engages the receptivity centers for new information, right? Mm-hmm. Think of it this way. I buy a new dining room set of furniture and I don't throw the old dining room set away. I have no room to make use of the new furniture unless I'm willing to let something go to create something new. So listen, you're smart, you have very high IQ, you're an engineer, and there is this, logical way to approach something. But I think, there's an emotional shift as well, right? What would you say part of that emotional shift needs to be for people?
For me, when I go back to that, I look at what does it mean to me? What are the benefits that I'm going to see by making that shift? Again, that's me using the reasoning side of it and how I would buy into what that does for me or what it does for the company going forward, to let go of the other things that are going away.
So there's an evaluation process that occurs.
Right.
Do you evaluate how you feel as well as part of the decision-making process?
I think that's a spontaneous thing. You're going to feel it. You feel how you're going to feel when you're going through that.
Okay, so vision, receptivity centers, a shift, an emotional shift. What else, from your perspective, do you think is required for that kind of synchronicity?
The vision, there's going to be a feedback mechanism that's going to come in there as well.
Feedback?
Right.
Well, tell me about that.
you're going to be reaching out to the people to see how they're handling the change.
Why is that important?
Because they're going to disengage if they're really unhappy with it. They're just not going to perform. They're going to be less than efficient when they're going through that if they're not happy or understanding or understand the path going forward.
But these are professionals.
No,
they're supposed to know this stuff. They don't need feedback.
No,
You're hired, you're expected to do a job, and that's it.
Yeah, no, that's not the way it works. People come in and sometimes they're happy, sometimes they're not. Who knows what happened the night before? There's a lot of emotional things that come in when they come in to do their job. And if they're doing things that they're not...
But companies say, listen, leave your emotions at the door. Emotions don't belong here from 9 to 5.
Doesn't work that way either. You know that.
Well, I do know that.
Mm-hmm. But the feedback mechanism is allowing them to talk to you about the problems that they're having. Maybe there's something that we could do differently that's not exactly what we're going, but there's another path to take. It's a discovery process as when you make changes. You're not going to get it exactly right the first time, so you're going to have to go through this somewhat of an iterative process, getting the feedback from people.
But I have to trust you as a leader for feedback. I have to trust you in 2 ways. One is I have to trust you that I can go to you, that I'm not going to be judged, right? Because I have seen people with open door policies, and they say, well, I have an open door policy. An employee comes in, and then the manager, director, VP says, you're coming to me with this? I've been paying you to think like this? Don't you see I have work to do here? So they say, on paper there's an open door policy, but their actions aren't consistent, and that throws off a message, right?
Right.
In terms of the message isn't consistent, right? So I have to trust you to be able to get the feedback, right? And then it seems like you have to allow me to create a receptivity zone that I can take in the feedback, right? Because you can have the best feedback in the world, right? But if it's not landing, what's the point, right?
Yeah.
Would you agree with that?
It's falling on deaf ears, essentially.
Okay, so vision receptivity centers, a change in an emotional shift, a feedback mechanism. Is there anything else you want to say about this? Because this is really important, by the way.
It's key to have that process and that ability for people to talk to you. But it's a sincere feedback mechanism where you're taking it in, you're doing something with it, or sometimes not, depending on what the person you're interacting with is asking. But you're providing that opportunity for them to share that, their view, and you give that directly back to them.
Is that happening now?
It happens with the people that report to me, yes. Does it happen all the way up and down the food chain in the organization? Bits and pieces.
Does that frustrate you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Missed opportunities?
Yeah.
Let's review them, right?
Sure.
It's a vision.
Vision, focus, feedback.
And vision, the ability to be connected to something greater than yourself, right?
Right.
Right. And that seems to be like a universal truth, right? I mean, people can resonate with that at all levels, right?
Right.
Creating receptivity centers so the message can get in. Providing some kind of emotional shift so it's not just kind of a cognitive, here's why you do it, but there's an emotional shift that occurs. A feedback mechanism that's based on trust, that I can come, get feedback, and I'm also able to receive feedback, right?
Right.
I think you mentioned it before, celebration of success,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I
Do
did.
you remember that?
Yep.
How important is that?
It's huge. You know, that's all part of this lean journey that we're going through, trying to get people to celebrate some of the things that they've put in place. It's simple things, but it's the acknowledgement of the work and the time and the motion that they invested in doing that work, that the company's recognizing it back from them, showing that, you know what, you did a good job. We're happy with what you did.
But genuine, authentic celebration.
It has to be
right?
genuine and authentic.
Yeah,
correct.
not just attaboy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
No.
We knew you could do it.
And that's a culture change for us. I admit that right away. We just don't do a lot of that, or haven't done a lot of that. Until now.
Yeah.
It's tough to get people to think beyond that and make that part of their normal day in and day out process.
You know, I remember doing some work for a company once, and it was a big property management company. And I was doing some coaching in there, and the scenario came up that one of their property managers was doing a review for a maintenance tech person. And this guy was an older gentleman, right? And he just had a passion for this stuff, right? He liked to tinker with stuff, and he was like Gadget Man, like the cartoon, years ago and so forth. And he was really ideal. Never called in sick. Didn't he was forced to take time off because he really work was very meaningful for him and so forth. Very reliable. So his review came up, and he had been in there a year, and his review came up, and the property manager had filled it all out 5 out of 5 stars and had to submit it to the regional property manager position for approval. And the conversation went something like this. The regional person said, listen, we don't want to give Joe 5 out of 5 stars because then he's going to think, right? So let's give him 3.5 in some places, maybe a 4. So this way he'll work harder to get to stuff, right? And that was his mentality of this. But we're still going to give you the raise that you want. You want him to have 5%, we're still going to get. But on paper, 3.5, 4 stars maybe, right? Well, the property manager shut down, very upset, emotionally hijacked about the situation. And the regional guy didn't get it. Because instead of not recognizing, right, we're talking about recognizing where someone was at, right. Instead of having a conversation of, let's talk about the sustainability of greatness, right? It was, let's make you think you're still not good enough as a motivator. Now I ask you, is that emotionally intelligent?
No.
Absolutely not. And that is mostly the mindset of how people manage, right? So when we talk about a mindset adjustment, that's an emotional adjustment, right? Yeah. Because for the regional guy, it went something like this. He didn't want that maintenance tech to feel a certain way. He wanted him to feel like he needed to do more. He wasn't doing enough.
Yeah.
And he can justify that cognitively. But that is not the right feeling to harness in that employee at that time. And then you shut out your property manager. Why not have a conversation about, listen, you are doing extraordinary, and we'd like to talk about the sustainability of greatness. How can you sustain this? And how can you deliver this? And how can we capture this, right? And now model it for other techs that are coming. Isn't that a form of leadership? Isn't that a form of synchronization of excellence? Isn't that a way to engineer excellence in people?
Absolutely. That's a very big mind shift and cultural shift, and could be in an organization to do that.
It could be, but is it a fight worth taking?
Yeah.
Because I say to you, what is at the heart of excellence? What really matters to people at the core, at their DNA, what's important? Here's how I see it, right? Can I tell you?
Yep.
Work is 1/3 of your life. You sleep 1/3, you probably a little
Not so
less.
much, yeah.
Work is 1/3, you sleep 1/3, you work 1/3, and then the rest of the 1/3 you build a family, you raise a family, you vacation, you do whatever you do with that 1/3 of your life. If I cut 1/3 of your body off, you're going to miss that.
Yeah.
Think about that.
Yeah.
Leaders have an ability to influence 1/3 of people's lives. That's how important work is, and particularly for males, it's even more important, I suggest, for you, because it's very connected to our identity and so forth, right?
Yeah.
1/3 of your life. Now, I don't know about you, but I take that responsibility pretty seriously. And I suggest to you that that's the fight to have, is into help adjust the mindset. It's the people behind the results, and that's where really the cultures of excellence, I think, can thrive. And it takes real leadership to do that. Now, you've had your own kind of journey for leadership, haven't you?
the aha moment, if you will, came in when I was promoted to a point where I was managing people and started to see, you know what, I need to change my mindset on how I'm going about this, because how I did things before, I can't be successful in that mode anymore. It's not me doing that anymore. It's me getting people to come along and follow me to become successful. And if I can't lead those people and have them understand where my vision is and have them buy into what I'm trying to do, I'm done. I'm just not going to get there. I'm not going to go anywhere. So it took a very much a mental shift on my part, realizing that I needed to recreate myself, rebuild myself from a person that was very much an individual contributor in the organization to somebody that could take the people and pull them
What's
away.
that awareness like, that self-awareness at that moment for you?
It's different. It was in some ways a little bit unnerving, because you know what, I had skills, many good skills going this direction, and now it takes different skills to go this direction. And I knew that I didn't have what I needed to have at that point in time. So I went out on my own, looked for training, helped me get somewhat down the line on developing those skills. Learned a lot by getting my feet in the fire and working with the people to figure that out. But it's very much a personal awakening, if you will, that you realize all of a sudden I have to do something different. I have to make myself be different. I have to change my core on how I go about working with people.
What shifted for you in that moment? What did you let go of?
The way I had to measure, the way I was measuring myself. I was very much looking at myself as I was able to move through certain things and get certain things done and certain tactics done. I realized internally that it wouldn't work.
So when you say you had to measure yourself, so you're suggesting there was some kind of internal barometer?
Yeah. On how I felt about myself, how I felt about the work that I was doing, did I feel myself being successful in what I was doing? I knew I could do the work for the people, but that's not how you lead people. You don't do their work for them. You have to show them how to do the work and help them see the path forward. And that's a totally different mindset in trying to teach somebody, trying to guide somebody down that path.
You know, as you share this, I'm thinking about maybe real leadership is leading yourself first before you lead others.
Well, I definitely recognized that I didn't have the right skill sets at that point in time. But I could feel that I needed to change. I needed to make something happen differently. And that's a tough thing to stand up and say, hey, I'm not any good at this, you know. It takes a little bit of confidence in yourself to be able to go and say, okay, I recognize this weakness and I'm going to do something about that.
Is that a defining moment for you?
Yeah, it was in my career, it very much was. Because I was at a point where if I didn't make that change, I could have still been very successful on a project-by-project basis for the organization.
Yeah.
But if I wanted to go further in the organization, not only in Waukesha Bearings, but anywhere, I had to make that change in my career, change in myself.
And then what happened?
I think I've done fairly well. The track record shows that I'm able to lead people. I'm doing well with the people that work with me. I have, in my opinion, a very good rapport with the people. I get good feedback from them. Our interactions together here have been very beneficial for me, to the point where other people have stepped up and said, he's a different person. He's learned, he's interacting differently with the organization.
So you got feedback?
I got feedback.
What was that like?
Interesting. Because in our organization we didn't do a lot of feedback, but it was good to hear that. It gave me justification that, yeah, they recognized the hard work that I was putting in. Made me feel good.
That's important for you?
Yeah, I think it's important for anybody.
To be recognized?
Yeah.
For the
work that you're doing and the effort that you're putting forth.
The risks and sacrifices, right?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of sacrifice.
Yeah, it's a lot of risk too. You know, you're putting yourself out there, changing something that's pretty significant about how you show up at work, how you show up in meetings, how you deal with people.
That's a big risk, isn't it?
Yeah.
What's the risk of that?
That it wouldn't be accepted. That people would look at you and say, I don't believe it. It's not real.
It's not sincere.
Yeah.
But yet that wasn't your experience.
No.
Did that surprise you?
No, I don't think so, because I was very sincere in everything I was doing. I think if I was gotten the other feedback, I would have been very surprised, because what I was doing was from the heart. It was from what I thought was needed to be done, and it wasn't on the surface level type stuff.
So tell me more about your journey.
It's not done. You know, I think it's, the way I look at it, it's just, in some ways just beginning. The self-revelation about how you show up in meetings, how you show up with a person, how you interview a person, the body language, the inflections in your tone of voice, the questions you ask, the way you sit. It's amazing how many things you can do in subtle ways to influence different outcomes.
Does that give you an advantage in hiring people?
Absolutely.
Why?
Because you want somebody that's going to be more relaxed. That's good. You're getting their reaction, kind of their gut reaction to you as a person.
Yeah, but I could say, listen, I don't care if you're relaxed. I pay you to do a job.
No, because you want them to come in and be, they're not going to be as effective if they're under stress when they're in working.
Well, I don't care about your stress. Listen, you're a professional. I pay you to do a job. Do the job.
They don't engage. They're not happy. There's something else that's going on in their embodiment of their person, their emotions that they're bringing to work that aren't allowing them to be the most effective person.
As you talk, it's hard for me to believe you're an engineer.
I am, through and through.
No, do you know why I say that, right? Because you guys, right, and girls, there are females in engineering, right?
My wife is one of them.
Really? Oh, I didn't know that. That's terrific. That's really great. That must be some conversations to have when, right?
Yeah, she's also a manager, so nobody wants to do the work we always want to lead at home. So.
Oh, yeah? That's really great.
Yeah.
That's really great. But, I'm thinking that part of the, I hate to say stigma, but part of the persona of engineers are like, they don't have feelings, they're not in touch, they're just interested in the technical stuff. They don't even like comedy. Everything is serious. Everything is precise. They have OCD and all this other kind of stuff. And like I'm sitting here and you're not a master engineer as I'm talking to you.
But I think some of that came about with the recognition that I needed to recreate myself back a few years back. Because if you would have seen me 8, 9 years ago, I would have probably been more the person you're describing there than I am today. It's understanding that you need to look outside yourself and deal with the environment that's going on around you to be more effective. If you want to be the guy that's going to just do hardcore number crunching, there's a path for you in the world. It's just that path is limited in where you're going to go and what you're going to do. And that's not what I chose for me. I enjoyed that to a point, but I knew that there was something more. I needed to do something beyond that.
Was there a point of resistance for you?
On that path? Yeah, because it's hard to let go of what you know through and through. It's easier to stay down that path because I know the hurdles that are going to be in front of me. I've experienced a lot of them, and the ones that are going to be coming are going to be fairly similar. This other avenue that I've gone down is a lot of gray. Engineering is black and white pretty much. When you go down this other path, ambiguity is everywhere. And finding that right answer, there's probably like 20 right answers.
Yeah, sometimes,
some are better than others.
Yeah, sometimes you make the answer right.
Yeah. But there's not that crystal clear path going forward as there is in the engineering side. And that is hard. That was a hard change to make and be able to deal with.
Did you try to escape?
I don't know if I tried to escape. I probably, right now, even today, I still lean back at times to the engineering side because it makes me feel good. It makes me feel like I did something.
Right.
I can measure my output. I can see I moved something.
Yeah.
And once in a while you need that. You just kind of have to feel that. It's like cutting my grass. I
can
sit back and go, wow, I did a great job.
Yeah.
But the other side of it is much more challenging.
Yeah.
The people management, the setting the direction, trying to get people to engage in that process is much more difficult than going down the technical route.
There's something about when you're in this zone, right, which I have now been a witness to, there's a certain truth that resonates for me. And the message is what's guiding it, and your sincerity in the way that, because I feel that you really care about people. Mm-hmm. I feel that you care about their success. I feel that you want to celebrate a team's goal and vision, right? And we did this, right? And there's a certain resilience about you in that process, right? And maybe we need to add resilience to this.
Our 4 terms?
Right?
Yeah. There's a lot to be said for that. in the engineering process that we go through, we like to get it right and try to overthink things and say, understand everything so that we get the right answer the first time. I think the resilience part of it is coming in me is understanding that we need to discover things on that process. We need to let things happen, try things, get that feedback loop going so that we're working towards the more optimum solution and let things kind of happen down that path. So it's being able to let yourself fail, which is tough to do from an engineering standpoint.
Say that again, I think that's
To
important.
be able to let yourself fail is tough to do, but understand that when you fail, you're going to learn more from that as long as you apply those learnings moving forward. And that process is hard to instill with people that always want to be right.
Wow. Now, that's a lot of wisdom right there. I just want to soak that in just for a second, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I noticed that about people. They want to be right. That's interesting, isn't it?
Yep. Nobody wants to be wrong. It's a admission of failure, if you will, that I didn't understand or I didn't know.
But the way you're describing failure, isn't failure then a success mechanism?
It can be, and that's a cultural shift or a mind shift within the organization as well, to be receptive to those types of failures. You know, there's certain failures that you can allow to happen, and there's certain ones that you just can't allow
Sure,
to happen.
obviously. I
So
mean,
there's certain balances and checks and balances in the systems that we run that we don't get to that point where they're catastrophic type failures. But we have to let people try and learn and fail, if you will, in certain instances to help them to get better down the line.
in fact, you're building resilience at that point, right?
We are.
You're really pressure testing leadership and synchronicity and people, right? And a culture of excellence, right?
Yeah. And when we talked about the engineers and not being able to take that value proposition forward, the younger people, it's that process that they're learning right now that once they get 4 or 5 years under their belt, they're much better than they are at 1 or 2 years. The challenge that we have is that how do we compress that so that we don't have to wait 4 or 5 years to get them that capable? How do we keep pulling that in and pulling that in?
Well, I heard some answers today. Engaging them, right, at
Right.
their core,
Yeah.
right? I mean, what drives you?
What drives me? There's a lot of things. I mean, I want to enjoy what I'm doing. I want to be challenged in the course of what I'm doing. I used to look for be that guy that wanted the right solution. I'm more now into how do I move this group of people forward, not just me, but how do I take these people and drive to a better solution. Those are things that are kind of moving me right now, is that it's not so much about me as it is about everybody else that's around me, that's working with me, and how they're coming along.
Does anything hold you back?
Yeah, I think sometimes I sit and wait for some feedback from upper management. I think some of that is I'm still relatively new to the level in the organization that I am, so I don't have a clear understanding of what my levels of authority are. And some of the times I think I need to just say, okay, the hell with it, I'm just going to do this stuff anyways, with a conscious understanding that I have to keep my upper manager, my boss, involved with this stuff, but understand that we're moving and not waiting for other people to say, you know what, Tim, that's a good idea. That's what kind of challenges me right now. Sometimes I think I get stuck in that circle of thinking about it too much instead of doing it.
So it sounds like action sets you free,
Yeah.
right, in a way. And there's this holding pattern that kind of gets in the way, right?
Right.
So as you talk about that, I hear the word calibration. Is that an engineering term?
It absolutely
It is,
yeah.
right?
Mhm.
So what's the process of calibration in engineering excellence, right? What is that process?
It's testing it. I think it's testing the boundaries and trying to find out how much you can move it. Can you move it a little bit more? Can you move it a little bit more? But I think that process, as we talk about this, takes too long. I need to move a lot. I need to make cultural shifts, major shifts in things, but find a way to do that I don't lose the people behind me, that they come with me.
Boy, that is such an important awareness, what you just said about that.
Because I can move fast, but I may not bring everybody along. They won't buy into it. They won't understand it. They just won't do it. And if I can't bring them with me, then again, one man out there is not going to solve the problems.
So that's an interesting predicament to be in. Talk about, master calibration, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm assuming you have to calibrate differently with everyone that you interact with, right?
Yeah. Yeah, everybody's different. From the top management down to the...
Sounds like a lot of work.
It is. Sometimes, and that's what I'm saying is that if I'm playing that game, so to speak, that's something I need to look at moving away from. Finding a way to move through things and not worry about that calibration side of it. If it's truly the right vision, down the right path, it doesn't take us to a catastrophic failure point, there's some safeguards in there, then why not move? Why not do it?
Do you communicate this with people like you're doing with me?
Not as often as I should. I have an opportunity this week where I'm going to get in front of the engineering team to talk about some things.
Really?
Yeah.
Talk about timing.
Yeah.
So what's going to be different for this meeting for you?
Well, I'm really looking at what message I want to send to them. I want to look at what do I expect them to walk away from after they have heard me talk. That's key. A lot of times when I would do these things before, I would say, well, that's on my agenda, that's what I'm talking about.
These are the 3 bullet points I need to hit, right?
Exactly.
At all costs,
Yep.
I need to hit
I need to
the-
cover these. And this time it's going to be a little bit more about putting the message out there, but then asking some other questions on the back end of it to get a little bit of feedback. The challenge with getting the feedback in a group setting is that a lot of people just want to sit on their hands and not share. So I have to go outside that mechanism to go a little bit one-on-one with people to really kind of get what the real sense is of what they're getting out of this. The messages aren't any really thing big in the organization. It's just
Yeah.
things that just need to be
part of you is,
communicated.
part of you is really talking about affecting a communication climate, right?
Yeah.
I think about people who go on vacation. You go on vacations too, right?
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of time people will pick a vacation spot not just to see something, but they want to experience a certain climate, because climate matters, right?
Yeah.
And I think that applies to teams, doesn't it? The
Yeah.
communication climate.
Yep. That's something I've been working on quite a bit with as well, with primarily in the design engineering teams to start with. We're trying to get that communication climate, as you phrase it, between the North American team and the European team so that there's very much a open sharing of information back and forth. We've been doing a lot of trade-off of people, where we have a gentleman that's coming in from our Glasgow facility
Yeah.
to the Pewaukee facility for 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah.
He's going to work with our team, work on projects with us, participate in some of the other stuff, and we'll reciprocate back. So we're trying to get that kind of job swap and job sharing stuff going on so that people really feel part of that bigger team versus these isolated little centers that do their own things. That's one small way of doing that. There's many other ways.
Okay, so from a leadership perspective, walk me through, help me understand how you prepare for this meeting.
The things to talk about are fairly simple. They're cut and dry information that I need to communicate to the organization.
So where do you start?
I'm not certain if I follow, but when I'm looking at it, I'm going to look at what information I need to impart first. What do I need to communicate? But then,
So you start with a vision,
yeah.
do you?
Well, actually, this one I was starting a little bit backwards on, but I was looking at this is what I need to say, and then I'm going to look at how that's going to apply to the overall vision of everything else. Because there's certain things I have to go through,
Right.
but then I want to tie them to that vision.
You want to tie them to that vision.
Yes.
And how do you want people to feel in there? When it starts, during, and after.
Yeah. When it starts, they're going to be a little bit apprehensive, so I want to put them at ease
Yeah.
and have them just kind of lighten the mood a little bit. Sometimes we just talk about stuff
Yeah.
or have a joke or just kind of just get people a little bit loosened up so that they're not sitting on edge waiting for the shoe to drop, so to speak, on what's going to
Okay.
happen. So you want to get them a little bit loosened up so that they're okay with what's going to come through. When you're talking about it, you want them engaged, so maybe ask a question or two while you're going through that just to make certain that they're listening, they're hearing what you're saying. Sometimes I repeat or ask somebody, what do you understand when I've said this? Can you kind of give me
Yeah.
what your sense is of what I'm saying?
Yeah.
On the follow on the back end of it is really tying it back to the vision of where we're going and why we're doing this part
Which
of it.
is the being connected to something greater than yourself, right?
Right. And then, like I said, at the end, there will still be an opportunity for feedback, but knowing most of the people in that room, I'm going to have to go get that individually. It's not going to come open in front of a group of people.
Is there anything else you want to push yourself on in this meeting for their benefit?
It's really that vision side of it. Really trying to take the opportunity to step in and talk about that side of it, to really show where we're going. Really kind of get that buy-in on that side of it. Buy-in is going to be tough, but helping them understand what we're working towards.
Yeah, and if you begin to feel resistance, right, because now you're kind of pretty good at recognizing it, right, and based on questions and body language and stuff, do you have a strategy for that?
No, I don't. Right now, I don't. That's something I need to work on. It's more of looking at, watching the people. There's certain things that you're going to, when you watch people, if they just sit and they just fold their arms and put their head down, calling them out in the meeting is not going to make them comfortable at all.
Right.
You can't say
I mean,
anything.
who wants to feel like they're under an X-ray,
Right.
right?
So you can take note of that, but that would be something that I would circle back on outside of that forum to talk about.
Yeah.
If somebody's really nodding their head and engaged and listening, that would be a person I would ask to share their insight. What are they feeling? What are they seeing? How do they think this is going?
What's the role of humor?
It just lightens the mood. It puts people a little, relaxes them a little bit, takes their edge off,
Yeah.
sets them back.
I've heard your jokes, though, man. I don't know.
They're not good jokes. You don't have to be a good joke teller. You just have to kind of just knock the edge off, that's all.
Yeah.
I don't consider myself a good joke teller. So.
Yeah.
But you got to throw it in there once in a while. And I use a lot of me in putting myself into situations where, I've failed at things, and using me as an example sometimes in those regards of saying, look, I've walked in those shoes, I've dealt with this, here's what I did, and it didn't work well for me. This is the results that I got. You can learn from my mistakes.
So you're leading by example.
Yeah.
But you're also, it seems like you're also putting yourself in their shoes, right?
Yeah.
I mean, what's the role of empathy in leadership?
It makes you real to them. It makes you sincere. They can trust you.
It's good. It's important.
It's very important.